Hi everyone, this is Gary Wilson and welcome to the Wednesday, August 5th version of Investor Agent Training live training webinar. And again, we always have people on here who could have been from different programs like the ones we teach on how to actually invest in rentals. It's a full-blown course. It focuses just on that particular topic. Same thing with flips. We have one for that. And of course, wholesaling too. And also property management. So you'll have people in these calls who are from those classes. I haven't taught those for a while. And the reason is I've been focusing almost exclusively on the Investor Agent program because we realize what a great need it is for this topic to be taught. It just simply, we haven't had a curriculum like this ever, and now we have one. So I'm going to keep focusing on this. I will get back to teaching the other subjects and other training programs, and everybody's, of course, always welcome to those. But for right now, I just want to make sure everybody knew that that's the reason I haven't taught them is because of my focus on this subject. Because I am a broker and because I'm a Keller Williams, my commitment is to get this rolled out no matter what it takes. I mean, I'm 100% completely, totally committed. So in any case, without further ado, let's get into some subject matter here. First thing I'll do is I'll go through the questions I already have in the question box from you guys. Then we'll get into the emails. But before we get into the emails, I want to focus on the discussion topic of niche, okay? Because everybody should have a clear idea of what their niche is. If you don't, we're going to help you through that tonight. But first, let's get through some questions here. So if everybody says they're glad to be here, they can hear me, they can see me. Let's see here. Let's see. Don is from Andover. Hi, Don. And by the way, sometimes if I say Don here, by the way, and there's something else like it's Donna or Donald, the reason is for some reason the rest of the name is getting chopped off here. But the bottom line is, looks like we have a Don or Donna or Donald from Andover. So how you doing there? We'll be back up there in a couple, about 4 weeks actually, about a month. Okay. Hi Gary, maybe we can talk about a possible investor meetup for when you're here if you come up to Bedford. This is from Dave Gambasini. Hey Dave, how you doing, buddy? Or I'll just come see you and catch up and share ideas. Awesome. By the way, I know what it is. The longer your question, the more likely your full names to be presented. The shorter your question, if it's a one-liner, your name tends to get truncated there. So study groups, great idea. Is there one in the Boston area? And that's actually Donald. Hi Donald, I'm not familiar with one in the Boston area, but typically what would happen is somebody who just has that leadership bug, that leadership gene, will kind of take the reins of things and make it happen. We've had productivity coaches be group leaders. We've had training coordinators be group leaders or study group leaders, excuse me. It's nothing it's nothing I implemented myself and put out there. I just think it is a freaking awesome idea, and we're already seeing results. So I highly suggest you guys implement this strategy. What you do is you get together at your market center, whatever, every Wednesday at 10 or every Tuesday at 11. I would, time it so it's going to be convenient for everybody. In other words, if you're already there for something, just add this on before or after. And you take your material for that week, you go over it together, you raise questions together, take notes together. And I can tell you as a teacher, and coming from a family of teachers, that format is one of the most awesome ways to learn and retain information. And I know, Donald, you would have some absolute takers up in your area. I know Lou Perica will be one of them. I mean, she's very active. She's learning a lot. She's learning fast. And she started off with not really having almost any knowledge at all in a lot of these subjects. And she's an absolute go-getter. So you want her in that group. There's a lot of people up there. You should probably form two of them, one north of Boston, one south of Boston. And after the week after Labor Day, probably one west of Boston. Okay, let me move on here. Let's see. From Buffalo, that's hi Maureen, how you doing? Let's see here. That was the last day, and I know this subject came up, Maureen. I'm not sure. I think there were 5 people in your market center. It was a smaller turnout, but it was a great turnout. You guys are an awesome group, by the way. I know the John is in the group. He's the pastor, so he and I have a lot in common. Of course, I'm a minister, just like he is. And there's 1 or 2 others that will be joining in the next week or two. They were just waiting for funding to come in. So, but I really highly suggest that they're doing it in Rochester. I think it even came up in Albany. It did come up in Albany, as a matter of fact. So, in any case, let's get into the emails first, guys. All right, so hang on one second. I'm going to go to Lou's email. So, Lou, I know you're not on. You couldn't make it tonight, but you're going to get the recording. So let's look at Lou's emails first. Okay, here's some Lou Perica. Again, she's living up in the Boston area. She says, "What is a hard money lender?" And by the way, don't be ever be afraid to ask questions, guys. All questions are good questions, and I can tell a lot about people by the questions they ask. Okay, so a hard money lender for Lou and for everybody on the call here. Some of you already know the answer to this, but for those of you who don't, when you have a client who, for whatever reason, doesn't want to or can't get traditional financing, either from a lender like a bank, either get a home equity loan, a small business loan if they're entrepreneurs themselves, or a second mortgage, or even a first mortgage, or any type of private partnership funding, they go to what's called a hard money lender. Hard money lender is usually usually independent, or always independent, sometimes private, sometimes they're individuals, sometimes they're small companies. There are several companies out there who do this kind of stuff nationally, but my feeling is this: I really don't like working with those guys. I have done it before, just to test the waters. This is years ago, and I didn't have to do it, but I was teaching a subject, so I wanted to do it myself, so I could actually teach from experience. But a hard money lender typically will charge much higher interest rates, much higher fees in the beginning, because they're taking on more risk by lending to people who can't otherwise get funding in a traditional sense. Okay, so there's more risk. These guys will absolutely lien a property. They'll lien multiple properties if they can. All right, I've seen hard money lenders actually make a loan on one property, but put liens on all the properties that the borrower has. Even if they're in second or third position, they'll still take the lien. Okay. Now, the reason I call hard money lenders is because it's hard. All right. It's not called hard for just no good reason. It's hard because you're going to pay more money for the loan. You're going to pay more interest on the loan. And if you sneeze wrong and you don't follow through and make your payment, or if you don't make your deadline, like say on a flip, you commit to a 6-month term and you don't have that property rehabbed and sold in 6 months, typically they'll reprice it one time. Okay, but other than that, they could come take your property. So it's hard money for a reason. Okay, it's called hard money for a reason. But that's the basic gist on hard money lenders. You can usually find them through your local investor groups. People, you just get references on them, check them out. I hope that you never have to use them, but if you do, screen them thoroughly. Get references. Okay. There are other sources of funding that are available that a lot of times people don't know about, like borrowing money from a whole life policy, borrowing money from a 401k, okay, doing private partnerships with family or friends or neighbors, okay, that kind of stuff is usually a lot easier to do. Okay, enough on that subject. Let's move to Lou had another question here. Let's see here. Hi, what is owner financing assistance? I've heard the term a few times. And when needing new people or adding people to my database, what is the script to use to get their address, email, and phone number? Okay, first thing first, owner financing is just like it sounds like, Lou. Let's say you have party A is the owner of a property. His name's Smith. And party B wants to be the buyer of the property. His name is Jones. Jones wants to buy the property, and Smith owns it free and clear. And who's party A, the owner of the property? And party Jones realizes that and says, hey, instead of me going to a bank to get a traditional mortgage, would you, the owner, finance my purchase of your property? Would you, party A, Mr. Smith, finance party B, Mr. Jones, in the purchase of Smith's property? Okay, owner financing. Typically, people won't owner finance if they have their own mortgage on the property. It needs to be paid off. They're just not in a position to provide owner financing. Sometimes it is partial financing. In other words, it helps make up a secondary loan, or sometimes they call it a bridge loan. But typically, whatever the nature of it is, the bottom line is this: is the current owner of a property is the person who's extending credit to the buyer. Okay. All right. Enough of that. Let's see here. And this is the one just Lou saying, hey, she's going to have to miss the class tonight. All right. Now let me see who else we got in the hopper here. This is Peter Lamb. So let me do find on. Whoops. Peter. Okay, and I'm not sure of his email address. Let's hopefully find Peter here. And once he gets loaded up, there it is right here. Okay, okay. Here's from Peter. But first, let me check for questions from the last piece of information I just provided. Okay, so far so good. Okay, Gary, hope all is well. Been busy. Let's see. Now things are winding down, and we will play catch up. Was wondering if it's time to get some time to speak. When we first spoke, you informed there was interest in setting up a fund. I was wondering if you could give me some tips and samples, investor contacts. Also read a lot about new crowdfunding rules that was enacted in Massachusetts as well as the federal government level. Be interested to talk that over. And he gives us his LinkedIn ID here. So in any case, let's go back to the question. And this is an advanced topic. It does fall under the category of financing, which was the bonus, one of the bonus modules we added, or module 6, sometimes people call it. And you could, what Peter's talking about, technically speaking, is setting up an investor fund where you pool funds together to then go buy properties. And in some cases, that could be considered syndication. Okay, it just depends on how you structure it. This is a very advanced subject, guys. I don't normally talk about this, and I don't teach it, although I've done it before. Okay, I've actually been involved in the setup of a closed-end mutual fund. Okay, I've often been involved in multiple bulk sales and, of course, pooled funding to pull together funds to buy properties. Okay. You can also, let's say you're an agent who wants to invest yourself, and many of you guys already do, and I'm hoping that every one of you will eventually. You should be generating commission checks that you're putting aside, say, 25% of to build up a down payment for your first property, your first rental property, or flip if that's what you want to do. I suggest you buy rentals first before you ever flip. Okay, but back to this. The simple answer to this, the simple version is, Peter, is you simply approach people that you know. Okay, friends, family, neighbors. It does take some guts to be able to do this, and you got to have your act together. You can't go in there with your hat on your hands and in your lap and asking for looking like you're asking for a handout. That's not what these people want to see. What they want to see is a professional who's presenting themselves professionally. So the first thing I would do is if you have a family attorney or an attorney that you routinely work with on closings, ask them if they will give you 15 minutes of their time initially, okay? Or next time you're at a closing, let them know ahead of time that you need an extra few minutes of their time. But they'll help you figure out who you need to speak to in your area to put this together legally, okay? Because if you're going to pull funds from multiple people, in most cases, that's going to be considered a syndication, okay? And there's a lot of laws about that. You're dealing with a whole different set of rules and regulations. And typically, you've got to there's certain types of lawyers who focus on that subject specifically, okay? Now, by the way, just a caveat here. When attorneys get their law degree, they just get a basic generic law degree. They don't actually specialize in anything while they're in college. They don't specialize until they get out of college. Then they can be a tax attorney, real estate attorney, trust attorney, estate attorney, you name it. Okay? Divorce attorney, all kinds of attorneys. But they do not get a degree in that particular subject. It's just a basic law degree. Okay? So you always want to ask for somebody who has expertise in this area. All right? In fact, I have to be careful. I'm not dispensing legal advice, so that's why I'm telling you get a lawyer who's focuses on that particular subject. Okay, I would not recommend syndicating if you haven't been involved in one before. It's that technical, and there are a lot of there's a lot to learn about this subject. So if you're just looking to pull funds for your own purposes and maybe small partnerships, that's different. Go to a simple corporate attorney who can form a basic partnership LLC for you. Okay, and you can be the general partner, and you bring in other investors who have limited liability because they're simply investors. All right, you're the general partner. You pull funds, the LLC buys the properties. Okay, and that's as simple as that. That's all you've got to do there. So, Peter, I would, you and I can certainly have a strategy call on this subject. I just want to give you some basic things to think about and talk about here. And let me check real quick because I think I saw a couple of questions or comments come in. Hang on one second. Let's see. This is Jenna says there was a missed question on the last email. Oh, thank you. I'll have to go back to, I know what it was. It was Lou's second question about script to use when adding people to your database and getting their contact information. So hang on to that thought. That was Jenna. Hi, Jenna. Thank you. Let's see. Good syndication advice, seek counsel from accountants and attorneys. And that is from Donald. Hi, Donald. Yes. Yeah, there's, and by the way, this is as far as finding people who do this stuff, Peter, it is easy, particularly up in your area. Okay, you went to Babson College, you're up in the Boston area. You should be able to get a good contact from your whoever does your title work at your KW office. You know how we always affiliate with somebody. I would get a hold of that attorney and just really, I mean, honestly, in 5 minutes, maybe 15, if you guys end up getting chatty, you should have a person to talk to get this set up. All right. I recommend you keep it simple in the beginning. Keep it short and simple and small and less risky and much safer. Okay. And test the waters by just buying one property. All right. Just buy one duplex and then go from there. Now, we do have people who do this on a regular basis. All right. But when you're first starting off, it's not something I would advocate doing right out of the gate. Now, you have your particular background in your education. I would say put you in a better position to be able to do this than a lot of other people. So I'm not going to scare you away from it. I just want to make sure you hook up with the right people in the beginning. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Back to Lou's second question. Lou Perica's second question was this: what script do you use to get people to give you their contact information? Name, address, and email address. Every situation is different, guys. Every contact is different. Every client's different. Every conversation is different. However, one of my favorites is this. Okay, when you meet somebody, the first thing you want to do is always, and write this down, guys. The first thing you want to do is develop rapport. Develop rapport. Find common ground. Almost always everybody's asked the second question out of their mouth is, "Hey, what do you do?" Then if you can help establish common ground by asking those types of questions. Hey, you live in the area. Do you have a family? Oh, tell me about your children. Just develop rapport. You're trying to basically have the beginnings of a long-term relationship. So when you first meet people, don't go jump right in the business. Build a relationship first. Okay, people want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. Remember that, guys? They know you, like you, trust you. Okay, so let them get to know you first. Okay, they'll like you if you ask questions like that and get them to talk about things that are near and dear to their hearts, like their children, their parents, their vocation, what it is they do for a living, in other words. Okay, now eventually the subject will turn to you. What do you do? Hey, and don't just say, oh, I'm a realtor. Say, you know what? Hey, I'm involved in real estate brokerage. I specialize in working with investors. Okay, that sounds a whole lot better than saying, oh, I'm a realtor. All right. Say it just like that. I'm involved in real estate brokerage, and I specialize in representing investors. I guarantee you're going to pique their interest. And when that happens, then you get to talk a little bit. And what you want to do is, and here's the clincher, guys, when you're wrapping up your part of that dialogue where you explain what you do, because they're going to want to know what it is you do, you can say, hey, I tell you what, just for grins, how about if I set you up on a search of properties in your area? You don't have to do anything with it, but at least you can see a little bit more about what it is I do, and you can see what's possible out there. It gives you a great alternative to investing in a stock market. I mean, most people are just investing in their 401ks and IRAs and mutual funds. And, this is a great way to have some of your money in a tangible asset that you control, okay, as opposed to a computer program that controls it. All right. So I would write that down the way I just said it there. Get them to agree to setting you up on a search, to setting them up on a search on the multi-list, okay? Then when you do that, say, great. Before I can do that, I do need to ask you a couple of questions. Would you mind texting me your email address? So now you'll have a text from them with their phone number and their email address. You got 2 out of 3. Right now, you don't need their physical address, okay? That'll come later. Right now, you want their phone number and their email address. and tell them, hey, I'll call you tomorrow night at 7, tomorrow night at 9, tomorrow, whatever, what time's best for you. I just have a few questions so I can set up the right search for you in your area. That's all it is. It's very simple. That's the basic dialogue. So I would replay this recording here tomorrow, guys, or Friday or Saturday or Sunday or sometime early next week. I wouldn't wait too long. You want to strike while the iron's hot, but for Lou particularly, that's a great way to get somebody's initial contact information. And when you say text me, now you've got their email and their phone number at the same time. Okay? How you like that one? All right, let's see here. Can individual landlords set up automatic drafts from tenants to pay rent? You certainly can. Hi, Ariana. How you doing? You know, if you're out now, look, Ariana, I'm assuming you're operating as a sole proprietorship, which means you have a company, or if you don't, you're by default you're a sole proprietorship. If you're going to manage properties and you're getting to the point where you've got more than a handful, please set up an LLC. Okay, you want to separate yourself directly from the operations of the LLC from a legal standpoint. Okay. But the bottom line is this: yes, you can set up an auto draft. Anybody can do that. All right. Doesn't have to be just a company. Now, your particular bank might have certain rules and regulations. I don't know, but I know that I've done that before myself. It's very easy to do. You just go walk to your bank. They might charge you a fee for it or make you set up a business account, and you don't have to have an LLC to do that. It'll just be set up in your social security number. Okay. But it typically will have to be a business account, and then you're going to have to pay a little bit of money for that, but it's worth it. Okay. All right, let's see here. That was Peter's question. Peter, I hope that helps you. Now let's go find, let's see, we got Patricia and Chris, and they're on a different email server. So let me go over here. Hang on one second. So I'm going to find, here's Patricia's email here. And by the way, always remember, if you send me an email that you want me to cover with you privately and not in these group training sessions, please let me know in the subject line. So this is Patricia sent me. It didn't seem to be very personal. I mean, it's a personal email, but it's not. She's not giving any private or personal information in here or sensitive information. She's not providing, social security numbers, financing amounts, areas, any of that kind of stuff. She just a little bit of information that helps me help her. Okay, let me get a drink of water here. So hang on one second, guys. Okay, let's see here. She's new to the program because I remember her, and she's an architect, so she's near and dear to my heart because when I was a child, my Uncle Jim was an architect, and I thought I'd always be an architect. It didn't work out. However, I started drawing houses when I was 8 years old. I started drawing floor plans, actual floor plans to scale with all the symbols and everything when I was 9 years old because my grandfather taught me. And I still draw house plans today. So we got a lot in common. In any case, she talks about where she wants to focus her energy right now. This is the thrust of her email. She likes the idea of having some rentals. She has a couple of right now. Sorry about this. My cursor keeps jumping multiple lines ahead. She understands the concept of creating cash flow to use for other purposes. In other words, one of the basic tenets of this training program is to help you generate additional commissions, okay, that you can use to either live off of or sock away for deposits on your own properties or both. If you're going to live solely off of this, and that was what I did, and I'd like to see a lot of you guys do that, I suggest you take 25% of all your commissions and put them in a fund you can use to buy your own property. So in any case, the issue is don't have a lot of cash to buy these properties. Let me reduce my screen here, guys, so I'm not missing some of her message. Like to get a loan and generate cash flow, which is not much, and wouldn't have to do so many times. It sounds to me this option is probably best for either someone who has the cash already or is a much younger person. Oh, Patricia. Okay, a couple things here. She asked, what am I missing? So thank you very much for sharing this with us. First thing is I train people right now who are, let's see, you're 59. They're in their 70s. One guy's in his early 80s, okay? He just started a few years ago, and he's actively investing. All right? So Um, I just, you know, there's no there's the best time to start something is yesterday. Okay. So having said that, the next best time to start anything is today. So you're definitely got plenty of juice left in that engine. All right. Um, Now, what I suggest you do is, I'm very conservative. Okay, I like following the teachings of Dave Ramsey, excuse me, and you know, I I do not buy frivolous items, doodads, cars, boats, and toys and things like that on credit. I use cash to buy those things. Whenever I use credit, I'm using credit to either buy investment properties or build a business or invest in my own education. Okay, all three. Matter of fact, the best investment you can ever make is in yourself, guys. All right. Um, Even Dave Ramsey says that, and he's probably maybe he's more frugal than I am. But in any case, here's what I'd like to see you do, Patricia. Use your license to generate these additional commissions, okay, by servicing investors. And if you're able to take a portion or all of the proceeds and put them away to save for a down payment on your next rental property. And here's why I suggest doing that. I do not like the no money down techniques. I've done them, okay? But when you're financed to the hilt, you're at great risk, and it's also going to cut into your cash flow. When you do it the good old-fashioned way, which is save up your own money by generating additional cash flow, put your own money down, get a bank note for the rest, which is going to be a much lower interest rate. Now you're cash flowing and you have equity. And what happens is, if you were to plot this out on a graph, okay, left to right is time, and bottom to top is wealth. All right, and your bar goes left to right and bottom up, so it goes from bottom left to top right. All right, over time, if you invest this way, which by the way is the same way we talk about in Millionaire Real Estate Investor, Gary Keller's second book. All right, and I teach that. That's the gospel for me. I teach from that program, that book, excuse me, and I follow that on my own investing. What happens is that line is not a straight line. That line is a parabola, and it begins to curve upwards more aggressively over time. So as you go further to your right, it begins to curve up more aggressively and start shooting bottom up more aggressively, which means it's starting to feed itself. In other words, your investing machine begins to feed itself. You start to generate enough cash flow to create savings deposits for your next property. And the time frame between purchases reduces over time, because the second property is maybe take you a year because you got to save up cash flow from the only one property you have at the time. But then in your second year, now you've got two properties funding your next down payment. Okay, and you buy the next one. You might buy that next one in 6 months. And now all of a sudden you've got three properties providing cash flow or money for your next deposit. Next, you buy the next one in 2 months, 2 months, and then 1 month. The next thing you know, you're buying a property every single month. Okay, so Patricia, I kind of spent a little time on that because it's so near and dear to my heart. And I hope that helps you see what's possible for you. Okay. All right. Next one is I like the idea of flips. I'm waiting on getting financing squared away to see what I can qualify for to start my plan of attack for this front. On this front, this might be okay though at a very small scale. Not sure of the ROI on my time and effort, though I like the idea. Well, I mentioned it a little while ago, Patricia. What I recommend you do is build. And this is for everybody, guys. Okay. Build a solid foundation first of rental properties. Get that cash flow going in. Guys, they don't call me the cash flow wizard for nothing, all right? I built a cash flow first for years. In fact, it was about 5 years before I ever did my first flip, okay? Now, my first flip, I did great, but you know what? Not all flips go so well. As a matter of fact, I think it was maybe my third flip. I got too aggressive, too cocky, and I think I broke even. And I've seen people not be able to sell their houses because they're priced too high because they didn't do a good job of due diligence. But what happens is if you start off flipping and one doesn't go well, it could derail you, not just for now, but forever. However, if you got a solid base of rental properties and you go into flipping, you don't need to have that flip. You're doing it to generate more capital from a solid foundation. So if it doesn't go well, you're still in the game. You still own properties with equity and cash flow, okay? That's my thought on that. And I do teach a class just on flipping, but even in this investor agent training program, Patricia, you should get enough information to understand the fundamentals of flipping to do a good job. And I'll be more than happy to help you. If you do an analysis for me and you're ready to pull the plug on something, pull the trigger, I don't mind at all giving you my 2 cents worth, okay? Don't ever feel like you're alone out there. You can always bring, matter of fact, I tell you this, guys, we've had people like Leslie Jones, for example. She's a veteran of the group. I don't know if she's on tonight. She just landed an investor, by the way, guys. The guy initially contacted her to sell an 8-unit building, and I guess she must have done a good job because he's now wants her to list, I think, 52 rentals for her. He's getting out of the business. He's retiring. That's what happens in this business. You do what we describe. You send the letters out after you get your buyers. You do the booklet first, of course, in your workshop. Then you send letters out. They get the guys who own these properties. If they like you, and they will, like Leslie, because Leslie walks the talk. She helps them and gives them information. They're not going to list with anybody else because you got the goods, okay? That's what happened to Leslie. And by the way, guys, she just went through the program this past winter. I think it was February, March. And all of a sudden, she's getting to list 52 properties from one guy, all right? Okay, enough said about that. Where was I going with that on flips? By the way, another student of ours, if you missed the recording of her interview, Brenda Griffin, I highly recommend you guys listen to it. She went through the training program second half of last year. First half of this year, her productivity doubled all of last year, okay? And all she does is work with flippers. She does a little rental every now and then, but she works with flippers almost exclusively. I really think you should listen to that webinar. So for Patricia, what I would do is I would find some flippers to work with by doing the basic marketing we talk about and we teach. Get more familiar with that business. And now when you go out there and you flip, you'll be operating from a real position of strength. You'll have the education, the information, and the experience, okay? And you'll have cash because you're helping these guys make money. Okay, number 3, saw a nice lot that I could actually build on and sell in the area. Will be a lot more than we can afford, but has a lot of potential. I've never formed a partnership with others in doing so, so I have no clue on what the standards are or where to start. All right, Patricia, I think you're pretty new, and I can't remember if you're from upstate New York or Virginia. Doggone it, usually I can remember this kind of stuff. But I would like to see you first use your license. Leverage your license as the income-producing asset that it is, okay? And service some guys who are doing flips, service some guys who are doing rentals. Gain more experience and knowledge, and then go out there. You'll have cash, education, information, experience to do all these things. If you really want to form a partnership with another person, I highly recommend you get an attorney to draw up your LLC document. And I'll give you a big hint. The complexity is not getting into the LLC. The complexity is getting out of the LLC. Okay, getting in is always the fun part. Everybody's get excited. You're going to make a lot of money. But you always got to document the eventualities of life and what's going to happen to your LLC should these life events eventually happen, okay? Like marriage of one of the partners, or divorce of one of the partners, death of one of the partners, okay? The bankruptcy of one of the partners, incapacitation because of an auto accident, okay? All these things that could happen, you better think of all the ones you can think of and document what would happen should that occur, okay? So it's the exiting part that gets complex. It's not the entrance into the LLC, it's exiting the LLC. And so many people I see do not do that, and they end up paying the price down the road, okay? Please listen to what I'm preaching to you guys right now about this. And if you get into a partnership, make sure you document what happens should these life events occur and what your exit strategy is, okay? You need to have that in place so that you're not making decisions in haste and in the heightened state of emotional despair, okay? You want these decisions already plotted out when you're in a safe, stable state of mind. I'm sorry to preach, guys, but I've got to do it, okay? Okay, let's see. That was Patricia. Let me scoot back over here and look to see if there's any questions before I go on to Chris Nowak's email. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Yes, talked about getting the wise counsel of attorneys and accountants. Okay, can landlords set up automatic drafts? We talked about that. And I got somebody, it looks like Jesse or Jessica, the name got cut off, just says Gary, comma, and then there's nothing else there. So if you could, whoever that is, if you could retype that, that would be great. And this is Jessica. Oh, must be her follow-up. If I have someone wanting to do wholesale, how would I go about explaining it to them and getting them under contract? Jessica Spencer. Okay, Jessica. This actually is in the training material, and I can't remember what module it is off the top of my head. I tell you what I'll do. If you could, Jessica, send me an email, and I will share with you guys my book on wholesaling. By the way, I hope you all have figured this out by now. Once you're one of my students, it doesn't matter to me which training program you came through. I will give you my other books for free. Okay, you just have to ask for them. I don't know what it is you guys are really hot and heavy on right now. I'm going to give you the rental profits without the pain as soon as Beverly comes back from vacation, and I can give you the wholesaling book also. Okay, it's basically wholesaling for everybody wins. So Jessica, please, if you could please, I can't do it now because I need to focus on this webinar. If you could email me, I'll make sure we give you that book, and I would read the book before you go talk to wholesalers. Because Patricia, there's rules of the game you need to learn before you get involved with wholesaling. As a licensee, I need you to learn these rules, okay? Some of them are covered in the investor agent training program. Actually, the ones you need to know are you can operate just based on what's in the investor agent training program. However, if you had the book, not that it's just a Reader's Digest version, but it'll give you a real good indication of what to expect out there and what you can expect from people. And Patricia's from Virginia. Hot diggity dog. Well, that's where I'm right now. It's below it. Thank Jessica. Okay, module 2. Yeah, that's right. Wholesaling is a module 2. Let's see. My buddy is a realtor at Keller Williams. Can he set up a property management company also? Can he set up another company to manage flips for investors? This is Robert. Yeah, Robert, you have to check with your market center's ownership team. Most Keller Williams market centers will let you set up property management. I know of at least 2, in fact, I think now 3 market centers that have multiple agents who own property management companies. Matter of fact, Buffalo is one of them. There's 1 or 2 down in Virginia. Let's see, Newport News, I think, is one of them. The other one, I can't remember now, saved my life. In any case, check with the ownership group. They'll let you typically manage just a handful of properties under their broker's umbrella. But once you get beyond that, you're going to have to set up a separate LLC, even get a separate broker's ID, okay? And then you run your property management through that company, and you run your sales through Keller Williams, okay? I've seen that done, and that's what I did. And there's other guys up in Pittsburgh who do the same thing. In Philadelphia, I've seen it, matter of fact, pretty much coast to coast. That's the way we do it. Let's see, and you also want to know if you can set up another company to manage flips for investors. Yeah. Now, I'm not sure what you mean by when you say managing flips, because if he's working with flippers, it should just be from the role of brokerage, and he doesn't need to set up a separate LLC. Now, if he's flipping himself, Robert, then yes, he should set up a separate LLC that buys and sells the flips for him. Okay, the LLC does the buying and selling, and not him personally. In other words, he separates himself as the agent from himself as being owner of the LLC, and that would be very important to do. Okay, for everybody on the call here, if you go out there and you flip your first property and you fall in love with it, like a lot of you will, and you're going to do more flips, I highly recommend you set up an LLC. Okay, let's see here. Ariana, can you elaborate on what fees do you charge for property management other than the 10% of the rent, and how often do you really have to charge other fees? And Ariana, I'm so glad you asked that, because guess what? Our last email tonight was from Christopher Nowak, and he had the same exact questions, okay, or same subject, and he's asking what are all the components of management? What all should he be managing? Okay, we're going to talk about that. Let's see, this is Donald. I'd love to read the wholesaling book. Is there a link to the PDF? I'm not sure. I'm going to have Beverly send it out, Donald. I think it is another link. So you'll get a PDF version of the Kindle. So that way you don't have to have Kindle. You can read it on your phone, in fact, typically, if it's a smartphone. I don't think that one has been publicly published, excuse me, I guess officially published. The next one is coming out that we have them all written. You have actually, you guys are, I give you my permission to read any of my and all my books for free. The only ones that you can actually purchase are in the Investor Agent because it's been officially published. And now the rental properties, I'm sorry that I've got my titles mixed up. The one on buying rentals, that one's going to be out in another couple of weeks, officially in publication. The one after that's going to be property management because it just came up last month. It's coming up again, and there's a real need out there. So I need to make sure you guys are equipped. So we'll be publishing that one third. All right. Probably after that will be wholesaling. But in the meantime, yes, I'll give you what I consider the draft form of it. All right. Before I go too far ahead here, let me go. Ariana, hang on. I'm going to hang on to your question, Ariana, because we're going to get to it in a second. I just want to follow through with the questions we have now from the prior subjects. Okay. Robert says, I guess I mean acting like a general contractor. Ooh, boy, I'm glad you clarified that. Robert, I've had students in the past set themselves up to be a general contractor to manage rehab projects for investors. Unfortunately, the first guy I know that did it did not do it properly. You know, there are different sets of rules and regulations for being a general contractor. Most cities, most municipalities, okay, most taxing authorities, you know, whether it's a county or city or whatever, have rules and regulations set up where you have to go register yourself as a licensed contractor, okay? And you have to meet certain criteria, and you've got to have insurance, you got to have bonding, you got to have all this stuff in place, okay? You got to have a physical address you operate out of. You know, so all those things I would tell your friend, make sure he's got insurance, he's bonded, and he's a licensed contractor. He's got himself registered with the local, wherever he's going to do business, he has to be set up. I know guys are going out there and are not setting themselves up properly, but what happens is they get away with it when everything is going right. But what happens when something goes wrong? They're not only in trouble, they're basically out of business and can be fined and all kinds of horrible stuff. Okay, I would not treat this lightly. And I will tell you this, I just give you my own personal opinion instead of beating around the bush here. I would not recommend it. I can tell you you're going to make a whole lot more money leveraging your license, okay, than you ever will being a general contractor. It will suck up all your time, gives you a lot of gray hair. It'll take you away from your family, and yeah, you can make some big chunks of money, but the chunks come few and far between. I mean, that's something. If you were to do that, I would say focus solely on that, okay? Because it is more than a full-time job, especially if you intend to make some money on it. All right, a whole lot of risk, okay? A lot of risk, a lot of liability. And by the way, if something goes south, all right, or goes down the tubes, and you find yourself on the wrong end of a lawsuit, and as soon as that judge or as soon as the other attorneys see that, then now you're a broker, okay, and you're acting as a contractor, man, I honestly don't see how you would ever come out ahead on that deal, okay? They're always going to find in favor of the consumer because they consider you to be more sophisticated than your consumer, all right? Boy, I feel like I'm really getting preachy tonight here. I just don't want you guys to think very hard about doing these things, ask questions like you're doing, and maybe speak to other people who have already walked in those shoes, okay? Okay, now back to Ariana's question, and let me go find, hang on one second. Let's find Christopher Nowak's email. Hang on one second. And we can't knock off two birds in one stone. Okay, let me, all right, here's Chris Nowak's email. Hi, Gary, not sure if we'll reach this in time for tonight, but he got it in at 6:38, 22 minutes before kickoff time, and I just happened to check because I was running late for meeting a pair of beautiful hamburgers. They actually were called Bubba Burgers, only in Virginia. Can you get something called a Bubba Burger or anything south of the Mason-Dixon line? And I eat 2 Bubba Burgers. So anyway, sorry, back to this. Could you explain how property management works? What services are included in the 10% fee I'll be charging to manage the property? How do repairs and maintenance expenses work? Do I, as property manager, hire the contractor to fix the property, and do I add on a 10% fee for this, or is this part of the 10% monthly fee I charge? And what fee is charged to fill vacancy? You mentioned this. This is on top of the 10% fee. Okay. Before I flip over to the book, I'm going to go over this a little bit here, and then we're going to answer Ariana's questions also. To fill a vacancy, yes, I always charge the equivalent of 1 month's rent to fill a vacancy. So let's say you find a tenant for your owner's vacant unit. They move in. Before they move in, they have to give you, of course, a security deposit. All right. They're also going to give you first month's rent. And in some cases, they also will give you last month's rent or other deposits like a pet fee or pet deposit. The bottom line is this, is you're going to take that first month's rent and keep that for your fee for filling the vacancy. Okay, that's in addition to the monthly management fee you charge them, or percentage, which is typically 10%. Could be 8, could be 12, could be 5. It just depends on where you are in the country, what's customary, and what you're actually providing for that, and the size of the property that you're managing. Okay, the more number of units per property, usually the lesser the fee, because you basically go to one place and you manage a whole bunch of units. Okay, all right, now how do maintenance and repairs work? Yes, you're gonna take the maintenance and repair calls, Chris. Okay, and then you're gonna have to find the service providers to go fix the plumbing leak, fix the electrical problem, repair the roof, replace a window, whatever that is. Okay, and they're gonna charge you whatever their labor charges is and materials to make the repair. Now, I see some companies charging a 10% override on this service, and I see some companies that don't. I've done it a number of ways. And for those of you who are really paying attention right now, I'm going to tell you right now, I would stop whatever it is you're doing else and listen to what I'm going to tell you. Okay? This is the Gary Wilson technique to get 10% override without directly affecting your clients. It does affect them, but just indirectly. Here's what I do. You ready? I charge the contractors the 10%. Okay? I know they're going to raise their fee, but that's okay. If you think about it, you're already managing the property for the owner. You're expected to take repair calls and get somebody out to make the repair. All the extra work you're doing, managing the invoices, cutting checks for the contractors and cutting them their 1099s at the end of the year, for example, that's all service you're doing on behalf of the contractor. So I suggest you heat the contractor up for the 10%. And if they want to collect another, if they want to add a little bit to their hourly rate or add 10% to their invoice to cover this, that's their business. Okay. I hope you all just paid attention to what I was telling you there and think about how much it makes sense compared to almost every other property management company in existence. Okay. And I ask you one more favor. Keep this to yourself. Okay. This is an insider secret that we don't want to share with everybody else in the world. This is for you guys to use. I hope you like that, and I'm going to look for some positive feedback on that. All right. It's just another way you can get creative with this business. Okay. What services are included in a 10% fee I'll be charging to manage a property? All right. Let's slide my panel back over so I can see you, and I'm going to go to the book here. All right. So for Chris and Ariana, here you go. This is the book I'm going to send out again. Everybody should have gotten it already. Unless you're new in the last month, I'll have Beverly send it out again. Okay. You guys just have to send an email so Beverly knows to do that. Remember, she's on vacation this week, guys, so please be kind and gentle with her. She's taking a week off with her son, and it's a well-deserved week off. So we're trying to give her as much space as possible. So in any case, all right, here's an example. If you look at the table of contents, Chris, you're going to be providing screening services. Okay, you're going to be advertising for your tenants. You're going to be receiving calls and screening them. Okay, you're going to set up showings. If you're dealing with Section 8 tenants, you've got a lot of extra work on your hands. And by the way, I always charge more money for Section 8 tenants. Matter of fact, I charge 12% to manage properties that are lived in by Section 8 tenants. It has nothing to do with the tenant themselves. And it has everything to do with the extra paperwork and all the extra inspections and all the other stuff you got to go through to manage a property that's lived in by a Section 8 tenant. Okay, so you want to do that because it's going to mean more work for you. It's not discriminating. This is a financial thing. Okay, it's time and money. It's your time, and you better collect money to pay for your time. All right. We also talk about charitable organizations. Sometimes you'll have tenants who need assistance and they're going to get it from charitable organizations. You got to work with them. Okay, sometimes there's extra paperwork, sometimes not. I don't charge extra for that, and the reason is I've found that can develop very good relationships with these charitable organizations, and sometimes they help me find tenants, like through when we sponsor refugees coming right now from Burma and Nepal. Back in the late 90s, I sponsored families coming from Bosnia. Okay, and it turns out when you work well with these organizations, they'll send you these tenants. And by the way, the tenants I get from Burma and Nepal are absolutely some of the best tenants I have ever had, ever. Wonderful, lovely people, respectful, polite, happy, friendly, and absolutely honorable. I mean, I can't say enough about folks from different parts of the world. Okay, leasing. You're going to fill out leases for these people. Okay, you're going to accept deposits. Okay, and manage those deposits properly for these folks. All right. Let's hold on to pets and smokers for a moment. And discrimination. Down here, you're going to manage repair and maintenance calls for these people. Okay. You could manage buildings and improvements. What that means is this. This is not maintenance and repairs. B&I are capital improvements to the property. So let's say somebody wants to do a major rehab, an overhaul. Typically, the owner will do that. If he wants you to do it, through property management, yes, you may be able to do that. I don't recommend you do this through brokerage like we talked about flips. This is on rentals here, okay? And you're already in the business. You already know maintenance and repair guys. Chances are you know somebody who can do a major improvement like replace a roof, okay, or replace all the windows in the building, or replace all the kitchens. You've already got the contacts, okay? And you provide that as an extra service. And yes, you do want to charge 10% on this, okay? And that's something you charge directly, all right? In any case, different than maintenance and repairs. That's buildings and improvement. That's a separate, unique offering that you do or do not have to offer depending on your preferences, okay? Also, bookkeeping. You're going to at least offer basic bookkeeping. So you're going to be collecting rents. You're going to be dispersing for payments of maintenance and repairs, and you're going to be dispersing net proceeds to owners every month. Now, within that context, you can also provide bill payment for your clients. So Ariana and Chris and everybody else, I hope you're writing this down. The owner can have their gas and electric and water bills come to you, and insurance bills come to you, and you can pay those. Now, some people do not like to pay insurance or mortgage payments for the owners. I've seen it done both ways. My company, I did. I know another company that does not do that. They have the owner directly pay mortgage and insurance out of their own pockets, from their proceeds. Okay. But again, back to bookkeeping. You're definitely going to provide basic bookkeeping. You can provide additional bill payments for those other bills, and yes, you would charge an extra fee for that. So the bottom line is this, guys. I have a cafeteria plan. Used to be 3 levels. Now it's down to 2 levels: level A, level B. Level A is just basic stuff: collecting rents, managing maintenance and repair calls, and filling vacancies. Level B is, yes, I'll do bill payments. I'll manage your capital improvements. I'll do other things, for the extra services. I'm going to charge more for that. Also, when it comes to evictions, okay, at the A level or basic level, I'll do the basic eviction processing, which is get them to the magistrate and win that case, because we always win. If they get appealed, then we turn it over to a qualified attorney and let them take it over. But basically, if we have to get involved at that level, that's advanced, and we would charge more for that. Okay. All right. Now let's see here. Back to pets and smokers. This is to Ariana's question. Adding more information. So Ariana, hopefully I've answered it somewhat so far when it comes to maintenance and repairs, buildings improvements, paying bills, and bookkeeping. These are all things you can charge for, and you can charge extra for the way we just described it. I do charge more money for pets. I charge a deposit, and I also charge additional rent. For cats and small dogs, typically I'll charge an extra $25 a month for rent, and a deposit, an additional deposit that's non-refundable, by the way. I make the equivalent of 1 month's rent for 1 room in the apartment. So if you've got a 4-room apartment and your rent's $1,000 a month, charge them $250 for additional deposit. Okay. By the way, in the book, you'll see that I do use a separate pet form. It's a pet application, okay, and a pet deposit form. And the reason I do that is this. I want them. What happens is when you do that, the bad pet owners get scared away because they think, oh, this looks too official, I better run. The good pet owners expect this stuff, and therefore they're willing to fill out the forms and pay the extra deposit and pay the extra rent. And guess what? Because they're good pet owners, typically they care better for their pets, and their pets make fewer mistakes. So I actually turn pets into a profit center in my property management business. Right? I had fewer problems because I got the better pet owners as a result of my policies. All right. I attracted more people from the general public because if you exclude all pet owners, you're excluding a large portion of society. So include pet owners and put in your ads, hey, pets welcome. And then when they call you and they want to apply for the apartment, that's when you say, well, here's the additional forms for your pets. Okay, you got to play that dance that tightrope carefully there. Not legally carefully. I mean, in order to get people to cooperate with you that you want, and people who don't, you want to get rid of them. Okay. Smokers. Yep, I've actually charged more money for smokers, and here's why. If you don't charge extra money for smokers, okay, and you allow smoke, you don't have any policy on smokers at all, that means by default you allow smokers. And a heavy smoker, the nicotine will actually stain your walls and infiltrate your carpeting and most other fibers, porous fibers, in such a way that you can't get rid of it, okay? And when they move out, you're going to have a real chore on your hands. So I do charge, I do allow smokers, okay, unless I have a building where somebody's allergic to smoke, and then legally I can say we don't allow smokers in here at all because we have someone who's allergic to smoke, okay. But short of that, I will allow smokers. I will charge an extra deposit, okay, and charge extra rent. Now here's the thing. If they lie to you, which some of them will, and they say, oh, I don't smoke, or I quit smoking, blah, 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 and you go by to do a routine inspection and you discover that they've been smoking, now they're in violation of your lease, and you can impose that smoker's policy almost automatically. All right, you got to go through a little bit of a loop there, but you can do it. So those are extra ways I make extra money from my properties and from my owner's properties. Okay, I hope that helps you. By the way, you guys really should read the book. It's unlike any other book you'll ever read on managing your own rentals. There's real life stories in there. You can see right here: fire, a little humor, good cop, bad cop, death, acts of charity, acts of God. And guess what, everybody, particularly Chris and Ariana, in the appendix, I give you all of my policies and procedures to you as examples for you guys to use on your own should you wish to. How do you like them apples? Okay, everything is in there, and you can see. By the way, just look at this, and you'll see all the roles and responsibilities you should be playing as a property manager. You know, handling complaints, collections because of unpaid rents, keys, contractors. All right, renewing leases. I know people that charge extra money for renewing leases, and Ariana, I don't do that. However, I have a lot of colleagues who do charge renewal fees. You can do that and get away with it. It's not a big deal. There's move-out services, getting occupancy permits. You have to do that as a property manager. Okay, all that stuff is in there. So, in any case, I hope this helps you guys an awful lot. Before I go, though, I know it's 3 after 8, but I want to get into niches here for a second. Let me go back to questions first, okay? Okay, smart, sounds like good advice. So these must be people responding to my suggestion of charging the override to the contractors. Yep, okay. Let's see, do you recommend a software program for property management? You know, I tell you what, I'll just go ahead and tell you guys, I like Propertyware. It absolutely is the Cadillac of all the property management systems. Let's see, there's a guy named I think it's Brian Braithwaite. He's the editor of Investor Magazine. He's the guy who first I had him come speak at a big event one time I held with some other people, and I met him on an airplane, and he's the real deal. But he recommended this program to me. This is going back, boy, I don't know, 7-8 years. And they've evolved and grown over the years. It is expensive, but it absolutely is the #1 property management system you can find out there. That's my opinion. It's not the gospel truth. It's just my opinion. I also use QuickBooks, okay? Once again, where do we get the property management book? So Donald, yeah, if you just email me to remind me, I'll have Beverly send that out, the link as well as a link to the wholesale book if somebody could remind me of that. And you guys get both of those, all right? Now, real quick, please hang in there, guys. I want to go over niches with you. I want to give you a trick that you can use. Hang on one second. I need to find another blank panel here. Okay, let's do this. Yellow. Whoops, pages. All right. And we should get YP, all kinds of yellow pages. Come on. Here we go. The official site. Now, I can plug in any city I want here. What I'm looking for is, and by the way, if you have the physical phone book, just get a physical phone book because it's going to be a lot easier. But let's just see here. I want to show you what I'm talking about here. This is 15229. Let's do Virginia Beach here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, I'm in 23451 right now. I'm on the north shore of Virginia, literally my friend Ray's house right on the beach. So I just did some paddleboarding earlier. I walked out over the dunes, paddleboarded, came back, ate my 2 boba burgers, and here I am on the webinar. But let's just click enter here. We should get a menu of all the different vocations. Okay, so bear with me while this thing is pondering what I'm asking for. Okay, and I will talk about what I'm going to suggest you while I go through it. Quick note here. 2 different categories, 2 different subjects. Subject 1 is when you are, let's see, somebody's asking me if I saw dolphins. Courtney from Hilltop owns the dolphin paddleboard at the beach. Hi, Jessica. Hey, guess what? I was out paddleboarding and some porpoise was literally within like 3 feet of my board. I mean, I was having a great time with them. I love the Virginia Beach area because I always see dolphin and porpoise. I go surfing down at Sandbridge. So in any case, by the way, Jessica, it's good to see you on board here. Speaking of boards. Okay, for some reason, this isn't bringing me the menu that I wanted. Actually, maybe it is. Let me see here. It's not giving me what I wanted, guys. So what I want to do is I wanted to show you that it will give you a menu, okay, of everything that's available in the phone book. The reason is this. All right, you can go through the phone book and flip through all the categories from accountant to zookeeper. And for each of those categories, if you can't determine what your niche is at this point, look at those categories and ask yourself, what do I know about these people? Who do I know in this group of people? Why would this group of people be willing to listen to me? I know people who set up niches with chiropractors who had nothing at all to do with the chiropractor business and end up crushing it working with chiropractors. Okay, their only familiarity they have with chiropractors is they had a chiropractor work on their back one time. Okay, probably most of you guys at one point or another have had to speak to an accountant. Okay, now I don't necessarily advocate working with accountants as investors because I made it so much more money with the other guys, the dentists and the chiropractors. Okay, but the bottom line is this: if you can't determine what your niche is, get out the phone book and go through subject by subject till you stumble across a group of people that you think you can relate to more closely. And I'll give you a big hint. Even if you've had no work experience at all outside the home, all right, and we've had a few students who fell in that category, you also probably have hobbies, okay, or you're involved in your children's lives so much that you can you can focus on different activity levels that your children are involved in. Like we've done investor groups for soccer moms. We've done investor groups for football moms, hockey moms, t-ball moms, you name it. Okay, we've come up with investor groups for everybody. And I ask you guys to take the lead on it and determine who it is that you want to associate with. Now, what I was going to mention a moment ago is this. This niche is going to be what you're going to use to start your investor workshops, okay? When we come to the booklets that you send out, those booklets always go to the same groups of people, always. Chiropractors, dentists, engineers, teachers, okay? That niche is because you're focusing on getting buyers via the use of a booklet sent through the U.S. mail, okay? When you're in person in front of these people, you want to have an affinity with these people. You want to have a relationship that you can build upon some common ground. That's a different type of niche, okay? So again, when you're using a booklet, Focus on the vocations that make the best investors. When we're focusing on your workshop, focus on a group of people that you can relate to and whom can relate to you. That's what I wanted to really discuss here tonight before we call it quits. And the bottom line is this: the use of the phone book is twofold. Number one is building your contact management system, because you go through accountant, through zookeeper, and ask yourself, who do I know who's an accountant? Who do I know who's a tax preparer? Who do I know who's a beekeeper? Who do I know who's a zookeeper? And you write them down, okay? And put down the contact information if you can. And then while you're doing that, think to yourself, hey, is this a possible niche for me? And make that your niche. So I hope that helps you guys. I will look for some feedback from you on niches, and we've got a lot of thank yous here. Thank you all very much too for participating. This was an awesome session, guys. I was able to prepare because I had multiple emails in advance. They were very timely and pertinent subjects, and we had great questions. I love doing this. I hope that it shows. I look forward to next week, by the way, which is going to be the 13th, Thursday, August 13th, and I will be in, is that right? Coaching call. No, I'm sorry. Next week is going to be Tuesday, August 11th, and I will be in Baltimore, Maryland, making that webinar. So I'll be in Baltimore, let's see, next week. I will be in Upper Marlboro on Monday, in Baltimore on Wednesday, in McLean, Virginia on Thursday the 13th. So for those of you in Northern Virginia, keep in mind I'll be in McLean Thursday night. I'm sorry, I'll be in McLean Wednesday night and teaching there Thursday afternoon. Okay, I hope you all have a wonderful book. Let's see here. Make sure I didn't miss any questions. Homework. Jen, yeah, actually do the homework in the back, whatever module you're in. This must be Jennifer. For those of you in the first two modules, I would use the websites, the links in module 1, okay, to identify the areas you're going to work in. For those of you who are in module 2, and for those of you who are in Canada, by the way, there's some websites in module 2 that won't pertain to you. You just don't have the equivalent. I mean, there's things I can give you in Canada, which I should have already given it to you. If I didn't, by the way, if you're in Canada and you did not get your own Canadian version of module 1, please let me know. For module 2, the links don't pertain to you, but the rest of the subject matter does. Okay, so module 2 is actually very, very incredibly pertinent to everybody, whether you're in Canada, and it doesn't matter if you're in Montreal, Quebec or Ontario. Quebec's a little bit different, but the fundamentals still apply. I had to do some different things for Quebec. Anyway, so the homework for this week is focus on your areas. You should now be focusing on a niche. Now focus on the areas that would give you the best probability of finding the best properties for flipping and the best properties for rentals, okay? And you can use your the websites from module 1 to help you determine that, okay? They're different in Canada than they are in the States, but everybody got those modules, all right? Let's see here. Lou is on. Hi, Lou. When are you coming back to Boston? So, Lou, you must have jumped in late. I will be back in Boston, Lou, the week after Labor Day, the 8th through the 11th. I'll be Worcester. Hang on 1 second. I gave the guys this earlier, Lou. Let's see. Westford, Worcester, Westboro, and Leominster in that order, 8th through the 11th. Okay, and listen to the recording, Lou. We talked about you a lot. All right, you guys have a wonderful evening. I hope you have an awesome day tomorrow and Thursday and a great weekend, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.